Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another one of our free Friday community classes here on the Green Art channel. This week, a little less of a class and a little more of just a discussion, just some ideas and some inspiration about meditation practice. This is a really important part of my own practice and something that I consider to be good training for herbalism and for folks really who want to engage with the plants in any kind of deeper than surface way. And the reason for that is simple. Plants can be very, very, very quiet. Sometimes they're really loud too, but more often than not, the way that they communicate, and we've talked about this on tons of other classes here on the channel. So if this concept of communicating with plants is new to you, look around. You'll find some other great classes on that and some free courses here on YouTube as well. I'll link to those actually down in the video deets below. So plants communicate, obviously not necessarily through the spoken word, but through other kinds of faculties that require us to be very still, to be very quiet, and to be very receptive. And, you know, human animals by nature, we're pretty loud. We're kind of the clumsy animal in the room in most cases. And so for us to really listen, to really tap in, and to really be able to slow down to tree speed, to try to kind of meet the plants on the level where they are, it requires some skill. And I haven't found any other better training than meditation. Of course, we have really beautiful shared practices from Eastern traditions, from Western traditions of meditation, mindfulness, introspection, looking within and dialoguing with the self. And really anything that works for you will work towards the, positive outcome of just being able to connect with plants in a deeper way. So one thing that I think about is the mind and the emotions and the body, these three different layers of everyday collective experience of human folk and how the plants interact with us on those levels. So first, the mind. Actually, let's start with the heart instead, because maybe the conversation will be a little better and make a little bit more sense if we start with the heart. Plants communicate directly into our heart center. The heart is a thinking organ. It's capable of receiving, interpreting, storing, and responding to data. It is the largest oscillating force in the body. So whatever's happening in the heart gets entrained into every function and process in the rest of the body. And the heart is a thinking place. We tend to think that only the brain thinks, right? But that's not true. We have lots of thinking that goes on in different parts of the body, the gut, the heart. And it is through the heart, in my experience, that we are best suited to communicate with many non-human persons, especially the plants. So when we're in these communicative connections with plants, oftentimes that information is coming into our heart center and the heart is thinking about it and interpreting it. And part of the response is that the heart moves it into our own lexicon of internal imagery and symbolism. And then suddenly we have thoughts arising in our mind and memories or a smell or a song or a person or a vision comes into our, internal mind. And that is plant spirit communication in a nutshell, and communication with many other kinds of non-human persons as well. So if the heart is muddled by a lot of really intense emotions, maybe we've had a rough day, maybe we're going through some stuff, it's very hard for those fine, quiet communications from plants to find room, right? If the heart is really busy, really heavy, really loud, it's very hard. And it doesn't mean that we always have to be in a state of tranquil peace in order to communicate with plants, but we should have the skills that for the next 15 minutes, I can settle into this experience and then I'll let the flood of emotions come back when I go back into my regular life. So the emotions can be settled by meditative practice. We can learn skills that allow us in the moment to quiet, to calm, and to create space. And then as all of that communication is trickling up into the mind, where we get these more direct symbolic communications from the plants, which are in our own internal language, right? But from the plants directly, if the mind is chattery, if there's a lot of what if there's worry, concern, catastrophic thinking, very, very hard for us to experience the direct communication that the plants are sending through the heart into the head, right? If we're sitting there experiencing a lot of stress or anxiety or what if, or we're picking everything apart, or the mind's just bouncing from one thing to another as it tends to do, the communication is muddled. And then we walk away saying, I wonder what of all of that was happening in my head came from the plants. And I wonder what of all the things that were happening in my head came from my head, right? It came from me. So if we can have some skill, again, to just settle and quiet for even 5 minutes, 10 minutes while we communicate with plants, then the messages come through more clearly. They're not garbled. There's no static. They come through, they hit, they make sense. We're like, that's unexpected. That means something to me. That's omen for the moment. Then we're good. And similarly, even though meditative practices tend to focus on the mind, there is benefit for the physical body that meditation allows us to learn the skill of sitting. Not necessarily literally, but learn the skill of being still, of holding still. We're communicating with beings who grow where they're planted and spend their entire life rooted to one place. This goes against everything the human animal does, right? We're always moving around. So in order to communicate with these non-human, other than human persons, we have to try to step a little bit into their world. And that means stillness. That means holding still. That means extending our own energetic roots down into the land and just grounding in for a minute, just being where we are and nowhere else. No thought of where we've been, where we came from, no thought of where we need to go next, just fully existing in this space, in this moment, rooted here, just like the plants, right? Because that's their perspective. And when we meet them halfway, everything connects so much more easily. So meditation can teach us how to sit still. It's not very easy for most of us. Even as I'm sitting here doing these classes every week, probably should not be sitting on my clinic chair, my swivel chair, but I will sit here and move back and forth. I go through and edit the video and I'm like, oh my God, I'm putting a lot of miles in through these videos, right? We're just fidgety people. So meditation can help us learn how to hold still. And by the way, I will tell you that sort of meditation, that visionary working of growing our energetic roots down into the soil and digging in is a very effective way to get the physical body to hold still, to root in, right? We know how this works. It's in there. So meditation practices help clarify and calm the emotions, open and quiet the mind, calm and still the body. And this is a perfect recipe for deep plant spirit communications. When we have this, things just come in loud and clear, and that's exactly how we want them. There's nothing worse to me than when I have a really good sit with a plant. Over on our Patreon group, we sit with a different plant every single lunar cycle, and we do these little rituals every day where we connect directly to the plant spirit. We study them directly. We allow them to study us in return. There's nothing worse than putting that work in and walk away going, I wonder how much of that experience was just my anxieties of the day, was just like my to-do list today, and how much of it is actually the plant speaking, to me, to my narrative, to my story. It's really frustrating when you can't comb through all of that. And I think coming into it like a still pond is really, really smart. So many traditions of meditation that are out there that are being shared with the world because, we all need that medicine. Whatever works for you is good, right? So I just wanted to put that out there. A lot of folks have, shared their frustrations with me over the years of, I can get this far, but this happens, or I feel like I have a good experience, but then when I pick it apart, I'm not sure. It all comes down to training. It all comes down to able to enter into that meditative, still, receptive place to become still water in a deep well, right? Ready to receive whatever the plants want to drop in. The plants are tossing a pebble into a still pond. We need to be ready to experience what those ripples look like, right? And how they feel in our body, what they bring up within our internal language system. This is the process. So if you're interested in learning some meditative techniques that are inspired by many of the meditation traditions around the world, but specifically tailored to our plant spirit work, then I invite you to join me for a super cool upcoming class that I'm doing with the United Kingdom, the UK Association of Master Herbalists, and then Aeon Books, which is the publisher of both of my books. That is on September 23rd, 2025. And it is UK time. We'll be presenting from London. So that's 12 p.m. Mountain Time and 7 p.m. UK time. So it is during the day for folks in the States. But folks in the UK will be doing this nice little evening gathering, and we'll be talking more in depth about a lot of this stuff. But more importantly, we're going to sit several different styles of meditation, just introduce you, give you some tools and resources for how you can simultaneously train yourself in quieting and stilling, and then also experience the benefits of quieting and stilling as they relate specifically to plant spirit work, specifically to Wortcunning, specifically to spiritual herbalism, specifically to cultivating kinship with our plant allies. So if you're interested, I'll have all the deets down in the video below. Thanks so much for joining me this week. I'll see you next time.